Hey everybody, welcome to Pop Culture Philosophers. I'm Rockin' Robbie Billups, and it's time for the weekly comic book review. That's right everybody, thanks for checking out the video. I am Rockin' Robbie Billups. This is the weekly comic book review. It's the show where I read a lot of comic books, and I'll let you know what I thought about them, and we always start with the pick of the week, and this week's pick of the week, Duke. Issue number 1 from Skybound / Image Comics / the Inner John Universe / from the world of G.I. Joe. Now, this is written by Joshua Williamson with artwork by Tom Riley and coloring by Jordie Bellaire. And I know a lot of people have seen this preview. I got a chance to read this like a little bit over a month ago, and it blew me away. Now, you know I've been super hype about all the Inner John Universe stuff, right? Well, I am a Transformers fan. I am less of a G.I. Joe fan. I never had quite the attachment to G.I. Joe that I do, say, Transformers, or even He-Man, Masters of the Universe. But G.I. Joe was something that I thought the toys were cool, but I never really super got into the show, and whenever I tried to get into anything Joe-related as an adult, just did not work for me. So I came at this with a little bit of pause, just a little bit of we'll see what the team can do. Now, I trust Williamson as a writer, Riley as an artist, Jordie Bellaire as a colorist. I trust this team, and I tell you what, they did the impossible. At least as far as I am concerned, this book makes Duke cool. I never thought Duke was cool. In fact, I didn't even really like the G.I. Joe cartoon series until like Flint and Lady J show up, right? When it was all Duke and Scarlet, it was just kind of boring to me. I never really resonated with that character. It really never appealed to me. I always thought he was a little too much of a goody two-shows, didn't have enough edge to him. All that is gone. This Duke is awesome. It is intrinsically tied in to the Inner John Universe, to Transformers. We saw Duke in Transformers number 2. This picks up right from that. What has he been up to? He knows that there are transforming aliens out there right now, but his government doesn't really want to admit that. So he goes off kind of on his own, trying to investigate this, doing his own thing, action-packed, beautiful artwork, amazing coloring. This is probably one of the best colored Jordie Bellaire books since like True Lies of the Fabulous Killjoys National Anthem. I love the coloring, love the pace, love the flow of the action, love every single bit of this book. It blew me away. Tons of Easter eggs, slowly building us up into the world of G.I. Joe. And even if you've never been a G.I. Joe fan or know very little about the property, this is a great first issue that is dynamic, that is exciting, that is a perfect introduction to this world and does things that are familiar, but at the same time different. And it's just like Transformers bringing a level of excitement back into mainstream comic books that we really need right now. Duke, number 1, pick of the week. So there you go. Also from Image this week, we got Worldtree returning with issue number 6. I really like this book. It's one of my favorite books of the year, and it's been a few months since we had the last issue, and reading this issue, I kind of felt a little bit lost. Like, I understood where we were in the story, but there were moments where I'm like, I'm forgetting who these characters are. Have we been introduced to this person? I'm just completely, like, blank on really most of the stuff that had happened on this book. Now, I know that there's this thing called, like, the Undernet. It's, like, magic and demonology and the internet had to, like, go down or something. But I came into this, and it didn't feel exciting. It didn't feel like a good reintroduction to the series. It just kind of fell a little bit flat to me. Even the artwork, which I think the artwork by Fernando Blanco has been really good in this book, but something was just off for me in issue number 6. But then we got Tenement, issue number 7 from the Bone Orchard Mythos. This was also almost pick of the week. This book was awesome. Written by Jeff Lemire with artwork by Andrea Sorrentino. Tenement's been a really cool story that's plugged into this overarching story and world and mystery that Lemire and Sorrentino have been building up into. And this is about like this apartment building and these seven tenants that are in there, right? And this evil that's rising, and it's been really, really good all year long. All year long it's been really good. And then you hit issue number 7, where we go back to the past, explain the history of one of these characters, and in doing so, reveal a whole lot of information about what the Bone Orchard mythos actually is, what's going on. It doesn't tell us everything, but it tells us more than any of these books have told us so far, and the overall picture is becoming a little bit more focused, concise, and incredibly enthralling. Tenement number 7, masterful artwork, atmospheric, moody, textured. This is just a great book. It was phenomenal, seriously. Then we got Universal Monsters Dracula, issue number 3, the penultimate issue. I believe there's just 4, because it's not a lot to this story, and it's more, though, than just a simple adaptation of the Universal Monster classic film Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi, directed by Todd Browning. Also got Edward Van Sloan, David Manners. I'm a huge fan of that movie. In fact, we just covered it recently on PCP Movie Night for a Horror Fest, so check out our interpretation of that movie and our thoughts on that review. However, this book has been amazing. So what James Tynion, the writer, has been doing is he's not just doing a straight adaptation, like scene by scene. He's kind of filling in the bits between the scenes. He's filling in between the lines, if you will, right? But he's also kind of putting a different perspective on some of the motivations of the characters. So the characters are very true to themselves in the book and in the movie, but they all have a little bit of a different kind of motivation and perspective that's applied to them that I think is amazing, because then it still has something that you can, pun intended, sink your teeth into as far as story goes. It's familiar, but at the same time, it's surprisingly different, but it fits right in to that movie. And then Martin Simmons on the artwork. It is haunting. It is ethereal. It is ghostly. It is just absolutely masterful. It is so freaking fantastic. Universal Monsters Dracula, issue number 3. Then we got Holy Roller, issue number 2. I loved issue number 1. This is written by Rick Remender, Andy Samberg from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and Joe Trollman, with artwork by Roland Boschke. The art here doesn't feel as tight as it does in the first issue, but it gets the job done, and it really does deliver on the pacing of those action scenes when they happen here. The comedy works, the script really pops. It was something that I really was impressed with in the first issue, and it continues that into the second issue. This is about a dude whose dad is a Jewish bowler, and there's a lot of anti-Semitism going on in his town. He gets out of that town. He also doesn't want anything to do with bowling or anything like that. He gets out of the town. As an adult, has to come back, and all of that bad juju just starts coming right back up, and he gets involved in some physical altercations and has to take on the identity of the Holy Roller, where he just beats the crap out of bigots with bowling balls. And it's pretty fun, and it's got some heart to it. So issue number 2 I really liked. Local Man, issue number 8. This is from Tony Fleece, Tim Seeley. I love this book. It's so cool. It's like imagine an Image extreme 90s character going back to his hometown today. He's not allowed to be who he was or use his power, so he just becomes this like vigilante in his small hometown, and they call him the Local Man. There's this big conspiracy and mystery that's been brewing up throughout all of these pages, but in particular, these last couple issues, he's been dosed with a heroic dose of psilocybin. So this dude is just tripping, and he's trying to piece together this mystery, and there's some really interesting and clever things that are done through the telling of this story that I thought was really, really cool, very unique, and very exciting. So Local Man is one of the most underrated and underappreciated books of the year, and it continues to deliver. Then we got Gunslinger Spawn here with issue number 27. This was an alright issue of Gunslinger Spawn. It introduces someone from Gunslinger's past, also someone from Gunslinger's future. The artwork by Dexter Soy is great, but it has seemed to have lost a little bit of the grit from the previous couple of issues. It almost comes across a bit too clean in the artwork, but it does still have some really nice gnarly moments, but a simple setup to what's to come. But Gunslinger Spawn has been a solid, consistent book. This issue is no exception. Over at DC, we got Titans Beast World issue number 3. I loved this issue. I thought it was really cool. There's some stuff there with the narrative, mostly with the narration, right? That just kind of feels a little bit off. It just doesn't really quite fit, but the events of the story themselves, pretty good. Basically, Beast Boy's been turned into a giant version of Starro. He's being manipulated by Amanda Waller and some other forces. All these spores get sent out. These spores attach to people and turn them into beast people. So like 1 million people on the planet are like beast people, including Batman, because it keeps going after stronger hosts. But there's some kind of more of a sinister, ulterior motive, and you're starting to see that picture come just a little bit clear. Also some revelations for some Titans stuff that's been building up. But Titans Beast World number 3, the biggest problem with it, though, Ivan Reis is already off the book. We got someone else in here. We got Lucas Meyer, and it's fine, but it ain't Ivan Reis, so that kind of throws it off just a little bit, but still a very satisfying issue. Then we've got Titans issue number 6, a really well done tie-in into Beast World that not only fills in some of those holes in the story, but not super essential. But if you've been reading Titans, you definitely want to check this out because it does lead into some big revelations about what's been going on in the pages to Titans and how it's related to Beast World. But Tom Taylor's been doing a great job on this title, kind of putting the Titans at the forefront and showing the problems with that and the problems they have to face. So that's really cool. Then we got Detective Comics here with issue 1080. This is the end of the intermission in this giant operatic, tragic, romantic ballad that Ron B's been crafting. Catwoman has pulled up the heist. She has gotten Batman out of there. What is she going to do with Batman? So this is a great kind of conclusion to that interlude, but also the setup for the next act. Some big moments in here, including Two-Face moments. I absolutely love this book. It's big, it's operatic, it's sweeping, and it's one of the best books of the year. I will be doing a top 20 video of the year at some point. It's been super busy this holiday season. I'm putting my list together. I plan on doing that at some point soon. Then we got The Flash issue number 4 here. Cy Spurrier's been doing some really interesting things with Flash. It is a very challenging book, though. It's very hard to kind of wrap your head around some of these concepts, but that's kind of what I really like about it. Also a focus in on the Flash family, and Spurrier I don't typically associate him with these like more nuanced, heartfelt, charming type stories about family, but you get a lot of that in here as well. But plus crazy, bonkers ideas. It's challenging. It can be confusing, but I do think it's worth it putting that challenge and that effort in. Mike Deodato Jr.'s artwork, I'm really liking it here. And Hassan Othman El-Hal on the lettering. I pick him as the best letterer of 2023, and here on the last New Comic Book Day of 2023 is an excellent example of why this dude just kicks so much ass as a comic book letterer and creator. So The Flash issue number 4, I dug it. Then we got Green Arrow issue number 7. This is now an ongoing series. Initially it was billed as a mini-series for like 12 issues or something, but now that's been lifted. It's going to be an ongoing series. Josh Williamson did a really great job in the first arc of bridging Oliver's journey from Dark Crisis into where we're at now with the dawn of DC, what's been building up there. Now, there is a plan at DC. Williamson is definitely, obviously, a part of that, and there's stuff going on with Amanda Waller. It's related to Beast World. It was related to Lazarus Planet. It was related to even Night Terrors. There is an overall narrative being pushed forward at DC, and Green Arrow, with issue number 7, really plugs into that, like 100%, right? We already knew that it was plugged into that, but even more so here with issue number 7. Oliver is back after his journey through time and space. He comes back to a world, things are crazy, the Titans are in charge, Wonder Woman's an outlaw, Superman's got a family and is working with Lex Luthor, Batman's possessed by a multitude of Zuranars and going nuts and crazy, and he's got an Anakin Skywalker arm. At first he thinks he's in the wrong universe, right? But he is the one who knows that Amanda's making a push. Something is happening. He is making it his goal to find out what it is because everyone else is ignoring it. Really good story, really good focus on Oliver as a character, but also just greatly plugged in to the ongoing story of the DC Universe. Then we got Justice Society of America, issue number 8. Jeff Johns, Mikkel Hanen is back on the artwork. The artwork is cool, and this is introducing us really and elaborating a little bit more on this new Red Lantern character. She's kind of attached to the Golden Age Red Lantern, so it's a little bit of a different energy than what we're typically used to with the rage of the Red Lanterns and stuff. It's a personal story for Alan Scott. Helena Wayne is trying to save all of these villains who wind up reforming in the future, but her future's gone, and the JSA, not all of them are down with the idea of trying to reform these villains because they're like, yo, they're villains, they're bad, they're doing bad stuff. Anyway, the last issue of Green Lantern proper, I mentioned that the coloring, when you had Sinestro kind of evoking the red energy, and then you had Hal with his green energy, and the coloring just didn't quite work so well with those two colors combined. In this issue, when Alan Scott goes after her, and you have the clashing of the red and the green, it works so freaking well. Well, I'll just show you that page again. But the coloring really works well. The dichotomy of those two colors, the juxtaposition, if you will. Really cool stuff, so I'm liking it. Justice Society of America. Then we got Penguin, issue number 5 by Tom King, and is it Rafael de la Torre? Yeah, Rafael de la Torre. I'm loving this book. So we're introduced to this dude, the Spider. He's like a Batman-centric villain, vigilante type thing. Penguin's after him to try to put him in there. There is excessive use of bad language, and I don't typically mind that, but sometimes, like, Tom King's, like, doing it, like, he's way overdoing it, and I think it even feels that way more because it's all just, like, you know, censored, so you get all the different symbols instead of the actual word, and it just comes across as a little bit amateurish. Outside of that, though, I've been really loving Penguin. I like the structure, I like the narration, I like how it's from different people's perspectives, not necessarily from Oswald's perspective, so we're seeing him through other people's eyes, and it's doing a really great job of building up a threatening menace behind Penguin and his attempt to take back control over Gotham, and this is another part of it and really sets up the second half of this series. I've been loving the Penguin. Then we got Action Comics 2023 Annual. This is the big finale to Philip Kennedy Johnson's run. It's going to be sad to see him go, but at the same time, I'm ready for some fresh blood. I have read the first issue of Jason Aaron's Action Comics run, and I loved it. Very, very powerful, very cool. A lot of people are going to be into that book. But Philip Kennedy Johnson has done a Superman book with a lot of heart and a focus in on family, and he brings that to a very satisfying and natural conclusion here at the end of this whole Blue Earth saga, kind of tying all the way back to the very beginning of his run, even the pre-War World stuff with the Authority and the planet of the Al Ghouls and all that stuff. So it was satisfying, and it was cool, and it was touching, and I liked it, but I am ready for a little bit more of a dynamic approach to Action Comics. Then we got Alan Scott, Green Lantern, issue number 3, going back and recontextualizing some stuff about Alan Scott's life and journey back in the golden age of DC, really focusing in on the idea that of him being a closeted gay man in a time where that was very not cool, right? Like, it was against the law, people would kill you. It was a very dangerous time to be a gay man or a woman, or anything that wasn't just your typical straight person back in these days, and they're playing with that in a very real and good way, and not something that just feels like it's pandering or feels like it's being preachy. This feels like a very honest and grounded and personal story. I like it. In this one, he's teamed up with the Spectre. The big mystery starts getting a little bit more clear, and it's becoming a little bit more engaging for me. But then we got Batman Santa Claus Silent Night, issue number 4, the final issue of this Jeff Parker written Batman Santa Claus, really a Batman Justice League Santa Claus team up that has been really fun. Great covers from Dan Mora. The book ends very satisfyingly. However, the art is, it's like two different artists, different than the previous issues. It throws it off. It doesn't have a great sense of flow, doesn't have a great sense of pace, and it provides a rather visually clunky ending to a book that has been pretty solid, but the story ends nicely enough. So there you go. All right, then we got a facsimile version of the new Teen Titans issue number 1, Marv Wolfman, George Perez. I got the foil edition because I love these foil facsimiles, and it gets the smell of the week. And look at that old school ad. I love these old school Saturday morning cartoons ads. That's so dope. Speaking of facsimile, I wish they would have done foils of these, but they'll save that for later. But this is Batman Part 4 of Year 1 is Batman 407 facsimile. They've done all 4 parts with original newsprint coloring as well. Really looks good. Really happy to have that in the collection. Let's jump over to Marvel. And from Marvel, we have Timeless, issue number 1. It's actually like the 3rd, maybe 4th Timeless book they did. Marvel's been doing this recently at the end of each year, putting out this one-shot Timeless comic that's supposed to kind of tease the future of the Marvel Universe, basically the next year of stories, and it does that, but it also just kind of tells its own story, which is a story set way into the future about Luke Cage and the future version of Moon Knight trying to... Well, Luke Cage is trying to save the planet from Khonshu and the evil Moon Knight, so it's an old man Luke Cage story, and it's interesting, and it's got some cool stuff attached to it, and throughout the story, he's like flashing back, and you're seeing these like different visions of characters in certain situations that are probably going to be happening in Marvel Comics. The book itself was okay. It didn't really work as well as a tease to what's coming up. Some of the other Timeless books did that a little bit better, but the actual main story in here was a little bit more intriguing, and it was a very, I don't know, like almost like a gut-wrenching, in a way, like ending to the Luke Cage and Danny Rand, Power Man Iron Fist team-up type thing. I don't really want to spoil it or nothing. It was interesting, but I don't think it's essential, but it does leave something from this story dangling that will probably be explored somewhere in the Marvel Universe. Probably a book written by Jackson and Kelly. Or Jackson Lansing and Colin Kelly. They're the writers of this book. Juan Cabal is the artist, and it has a nice flow to it. See, there we go. So he's like reminiscing or something. He's like thinking of all these things that are happening. It's all right. It's all right. How much is it? $6.99? Now, I don't know if it's $6.99 all right. All right, then we got Gang War, Deadly Hands of Kung Fu, issue number 1. I'm going to give that the cover of the week. That's the David Aha cover. Really love his very simple design, his very striking design. And what I love about comic book covers is, especially as a retailer, I want it to pop. I want it to be something that instantaneously draws your eye to that book, and I think that's what that cover does. The book itself is just kind of okay. It's written by Greg Pak. If you've been following the journey of Shang-Chi over the last few years at Marvel, where they're kind of tying it more closely in with the movie mythology and lore, which I'm not always the biggest fan of that, but basically Shang-Chi has been leading his father's criminal organization, and now as part of the Spider-Man Gang War event, he's kind of tied in there, but he even though he runs a criminal organization, he's trying to do it for good, but now there's this gang war erupting, so it's an interesting conflict there, but for the most part, it was just all right. The art was pretty clunky, didn't really work. Some pages was fine, other pages were just like, bruh, what's going on there? Then we got Miles Morales Spider-Man issue number 14, another gang war tie-in. If you've been reading Miles Morales Spider-Man, no reason to skip out. It's just a really solid Miles Morales book. It is tied into gang war because Miles is trying to take care of the Brooklyn element of the gang war. It's got Hobgoblin, it's got the Enforcers, and it's got the Prowler. And not like the OG Prowler, but like, you know, Miles's uncle Prowler. So it's got that dynamic too. And you got Vincentini on the artwork. Artwork is just big and explosive. It's not as good as the artwork has been in like some of the first issues, but it's still really solid and a very action-packed Spider book from Marvel right now. Then we got Carnage issue number 2 here. Tarun Groenbeck is now the writer on Carnage. Somehow the symbiote has spawned Cletus Cassidy back to life. Also the anti-venom symbiote has spawned Flash Thompson back to life. He's being led to hunt down Carnage or something like that. And Carnage, now trying to approach godhood, is trying to start like a religion. Sounds like it could be cool, but it just doesn't work for me. 2 issues in, and I'm just not digging it. I'm not vibing it. I really like Carnage, but I think the focus on Carnage as a major character, or as a main character of a title, it just doesn't work for me. It definitely doesn't work here. I thought Ron V and Alex Packnadel handled it well enough, but here, it just feels disconnected from me and what I want out of a Carnage book, so I might just be dropping off of that one. All right. We finally got a book from Valiant. Valiant has been bought up by Alien Books or something, so even though there wasn't any Valiant books for a long time, they are coming back. I think Exo Manowar Unconquered comes back today. And then Ninjak Super Killers. This is written by Jeff Parker with artwork by Mike Norton. I was excited to check this out. It's about a team of super-powered individuals being sent to hunt down Ninjak, but it's just rather boring. It's rather dull. It's not exciting, and if this is your first Ninjak book, you're going to be like, why should I even read any Ninjak books? And Ninjak's had some good books in the past, But this one ain't it. It just ain't working. It's just kind of dull. It's kind of boring. And it's $10 because it's like two issues shoved into one. So I think this was initially billed as a 4 to 5 issue series. And now it's like 2 giant $10 comics. So yeah, only the most hardcore of Ninjak fans. Like if you're like dying to have new Ninjak content, go for it. But outside of that, like if you think this is a good place to try out Ninjak, I would say not. All right, then we got The Ribbon Queen, issue number 6 from AWA, written by Garth Ennis, with artwork by Jason Burrows. I like this story. It's interesting, but I do feel like it's been running on just a little bit too long. This is mostly a bunch of people talking, a lot of explaining, and it's interesting and it's cool. And every single issue of this book, I find it to be a little bit boring and dull until a real big gnarly moment happens. This issue didn't have one of those big gnarly moments. It just feels like the story's going on a little bit too long, but I'm invested. It's only got 2 issues left. I am liking the story. I am liking the concepts. I am liking the vibe of it. So I do want to see how it concludes. So there you go. All right, and then we got Army of Darkness Forever, issue number 3, written by Tony Fleece. This is such a great book. Artwork by Justin Greenwood. I like the artwork. It's got this raw, kind of like, what's the word? It's got a raw, like frantic type pace to it that I really, really enjoy. And Tony Fleece is a big fan of Evil Dead and the Army of Darkness franchise, and you can tell. So this is a story that's set in 3 different timelines, but it's all kind of working together. You got the original medieval timeline. After Ash leaves, what happens? What's Sheila's story? So we're dealing with that. Then you got the end of the movie where he wakes up and he's an S-Smart and he fights off that Deadite. And then you get the continuation of that story, and it's all tied in. And then you get the original ending, which they cut for the theatrical cut, where Ash sleeps too long, and now he has a new mission 100 years into his future. So it's past, present, as in 1993, and the future, 2093, telling 3 stories in 3 timelines, but all in one cohesive unit. Really great job from Tony and company on this book, Army of Darkness Forever. So those are the comics I read, but some cool trades out this week, some cool collections. I want to spotlight them real quick. So if you have any Christmas money that you want to part with, definitely check out some of these. For Marvel fans, Secret Wars 2 is finally back in print as a trade paperback. All 9 issues of Secret Wars 2, which is not a good book, okay? It's not a good book. However, I have a strong attachment to Secret Wars 2 because I was reading Secret Wars 2 as it was happening. I was a very young kid. I think I read it before I read the first Secret Wars. So to me, the Beyonder has always been this dude with like the curly hair, disco era kind of stuff. I've reread this book since many times and it's always dull, but it just has this nice nostalgic factor for me. So if you haven't gotten a chance to get this in paperback form, here it is. But be warned, it's not good, but I really like it. I really like it. Like, when I was reading comics, like, this is from, like, when I first started getting into comics. I was reading comics for the first time in, like, 1986 and stuff like that, and Secret Wars 2 was tying in with everything, and it was super fun. Then we got the EC Archives Haunt of Fear, volume number 3. Dark Horse has been doing a great job of taking these EC archives, which has only been available in hardcover, and putting them in affordable trade paperback editions. This is $20 for wonderful, wonderful horror comics from the 1950s by some of the absolute best artists out there. Johnny Craig, I think Wally Wood's probably in here. You got Al Fieldstein in here. Let's see, who else? Yep, Jack Kamen in here, Jack Davis, Graham Ingalls. Yeah, but I don't see any Wally Wood. He was in previous ones. George Evans. Anyway, some of the best comic art you'll ever see here in the pages of Haunt of Fear. The recoloring is, you know, whatever. However, $20 for that. That's awesome. Also, Dark Horse has been putting in paperback their archive editions of the Warren stuff from back in the day, including Eerie. So there's Eerie Volume 3. This is $25 for some really great, gnarly black and white artwork. I do like the EC stuff better, but the Warren stuff is fun as well. And you have artists like Neil Adams, you have Johnny Craig, Gene Colan, Frank Frazetta, Jeff Jones, Al McWilliams. I mean, absolutely fantastic stuff. Ton Sutton, Al Williamson, Joe Orlando, Wally Wood. Wally Wood is there. So some of the best artists in the business ever right here in 2 affordable paperback editions from Dark Horse Comics. Then we got the Savage Dragon Ultimate Collection Volume 2. So they did one of these already. Eric Larson's Savage Dragon. I hope they continue to do these. Keep buying these up, y'all. We want the whole series collected in these nice, beautiful hardcovers. This has Savage Dragon number 9 through 21 and Wildcats number 14. Savage Dragon was one of the best Image comics from back in the early days, so don't miss out on that. And I was really looking forward to this coming out. I think it's already been out, and this is a reprint, but this is the Spy versus Spy Omnibus. So this is $75, and it's every Spy versus Spy strip from Mad Comics, from Mad Magazine. That's awesome. I used to love Spy vs. Spy. I know it's not everybody's cup of tea, but when I read Mad Magazine when I was a kid, I loved it, and one of my favorite things was Spy vs. Spy, so it's cool to have them all there. So, to recap, 50 years of inspired lunacy here in the Spy vs. Spy Omnibus, Savage Dragon, Deluxe Hardcover Volume 2, Dark Horse reprinting some masterful horror comics with Haunt of Fear Volume 3 and Eerie Volume 3, and then Secret Wars 2 is back in print in paperback from Marvel. It's not good, but it's fun. It's fun. All right, Army of Darkness Forever. I hope this book goes on forever because Tony Fleece understands this property and what to do with it. Ribbon Queen getting a little bit boring, but I'm going to stick it through. Ninjak. Avoid this one unless you are the absolute most hardcore Ninjak fan. I know that there's like 3 or 4 of you out there. Carnage number 2 is just not working for me. Miles Morales Spider-Man's lost a little bit of its luster, but it's still a pretty dynamic book. Deadly Hands of Kung Fu tied into Gang War. Book's just kind of okay, but that cover's awesome. It gets the cover of the week. Timeless, a little bit overpriced. Doesn't really tease too much about the future, just a couple images here and there. But the main story is pretty interesting, especially if you're a Luke Cage fan. You definitely might want to check that out. Facsimiles for Batman 407, the 4th and final part of Batman Year 1. New Teen Titans, a facsimile of issue number 1, foil edition. That's the smell of the week. Beautiful newsprint. Batman Santa Claus Silent Night, a satisfying enough conclusion, but the art really kind of makes it clunky and wonky. Alan Scott Green Lantern, great team up between Alan Scott and the Spectre. Action Comics, Philip Kennedy Johnson ends his run in that annual. Penguin number 5, loving the book. A little silly with the language in this one. Justice Society of America, issue number 8. New concepts, new versions of Red Lanterns. I'm down for it. Great coloring in there, too. Green Arrow number 7. Josh Williamson directly plugs it into the mystery of what is going on in the DC Universe proper. I love it. Flash number 4. Great art. Excellent lettering and some really challenging, cool concepts. High concept stuff. Detective Comics ending the intermezzo, whatever you want to call it, and leading into the next act. Rom V, that's a historic run. Titans number 6 and Titans Beast World number 3. Tom Taylor doing a great job with that. Not just for Titans fans, actually. Then we got Gunslinger Spawn. It was an alright issue. Local Man. Some tripped out nonsense there. I love it. Holy Roller continues its momentum. Dracula, number 3, Universal Monsters, fantastic. Tenement, best issue yet. Big revelatory issue for the entire Bone Orchard Mythos. Worldtree was a little bit of a step back. I was a little disappointed in that. But Duke number 1, Josh Williamson and company made Duke cool, made Duke action-packed, and made the whole setup of the G.I. Joe universe and its connection to Transformers exciting as hell. So it made the pick of the week. All right, that's what I read. That's what I thought. That's what I dug. What are you reading? What are you digging? What are you thinking? Let us know in the comments down below. What are your favorite books of the year? I want to hear. What are you digging this year more than anything? Thank you so much for checking out the video. I've been Rockin' Robbie Billups. Thanks for rocking with us. Keep on reading. Station. Pop, pop. Boom.